Hello everyone, welcome to here. The intensity is really in the air, you can certainly sense it too. We have just gone through an extreme high point in energy coherence on the 12th. Yesterday was the high point of the 40-year maximum of Earth's biorhythm. Go back to the Philadelphia experiment recording and you hear more about that. This is just a short excerpt of Albiolek's testimony. He condensed that negative aliens had manipulated the human planners of the Philadelphia experiment on August 12, 1943, 80 years since, to run the experiment on August 12 in order to allow a large number of their ships to pour through the hole in the space-time continuum and access our universe. So whatever you think, give this a chance, even if it sounds far-fetched and crazy. I mean, in this present age of really coming to terms with aliens, extraterrestrials, and so I guess it's really important to keep open on all levels. So in a nutshell, if you haven't listened to the video, know the story, on August 12, 1943, Tesla and Einstein were on board of that highly classified military program to make ships invisible through the use of electromagnetic fields. And that's what they did on that fateful August 12, 1943, when a whole battleship was literally disappeared into hyperspace and only came back after 4 hours with some of the sailors embedded in the bulkheads, others running around in flames, phasing in and out of reality. And and others went crazy, lost their minds. I mean, the whole crew was a write-off, really, to say it that way. But Tesla knew of that danger, that's why he got out of the project in early, probably around late 42. And, you know, he passed away in January 1943. Maybe he was punished for stepping out, possible. Anyway, but so this high point we just have been experiencing yesterday, and I show you here the latest crop formations. That was on the 10th, just a couple days prior, which basically is the symbol of the sun. For those of you who are into astrology, it's obvious. And then if we look at the center, I mean, it's really an amazing pattern. You see, this is not done by humans, for sure, not someone with a board and a measuring tape. This is intricate, that whole pattern. It really resembles the energies which are constantly all these movements on the sun. If you look at the close-up in the X-ray spectrum, as published on Space Weather. If you are not yet there, please visit it. That's a super important site in our present times to be informed of what happens in the greater solar system and the universe. Anyway, then on August the 13th, that is today, this beautiful formation appeared, which is a real jewel, I would say. And I guess that's what it feels, what we got into. There was such an enormous addition to reality which happened yesterday, an influx of new energy. So yes, the idea originally of those dark force alien were to bring in huge amounts of their ships and energies and extra dimensionals into this frequency and to this space-time continuum into our universe through that rapture in hyperspace, that time loop which is created between 1943 and 83, because that was the time where the two engineers who jumped overboard because they wanted to await their destiny. They saw this ship was doomed, the whole crew was doomed. They realized it a few seconds into the experiment. They were the young engineers who were in charge, throwing the switches. Anyway, I don't want to tell you the whole story again, but the long story short is they were ending up the future. In 1983 were instructed to go back to 1943, which was that 40-year loop, and so these were two powerful nodal points which were generated, and we are at the mirror point. Can you see 43, 83, 2023? This is the 40-year sequence, and that's what they said, and it was definitely palpable. There's raw intensity in the air, I would say. If you just look at world events, we get to that too. Just think of Maui and latest revelations from on the front of the pro-life and pro-choice front from Australia. Just I thought these were really brilliant examples showing you the extremeness of also dark stuff which is exploding in our face almost. And I found it super interesting that if we now go into astrology, okay, let's jump right here. So this is from Richard Rudd's page. He wrote the gene keys. Those of you are familiar with the gene keys, which is basically the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching overlaid over the zodiac. It's the 64 hexagrams, and this is where we are at in hexagram 4 right now, coming out of 7, which is the army, which is that deep tremor of rulership from a very material and materialistic base. And that is interesting that this experiment, this Philadelphia experiment, happened in the very last segment of hexagram 7, the sun was, and in that 4-hour gap it took for that whole time travel and everything to fall in place for these two engineers being beamed back onto the ship's bridge and instructed, coming back with the instruction to take sledgehammers and destroy the equipment to collapse the fields, the electromagnetic fields. And yes, then when kind of they had already completed their jobs, the fields were starting to collapse, the ship was kind of slowly entering this dimension, and that was the moment when Duncan Cameron, one of the two brothers, jumped overboard again and said, no, I'm not staying in this timeline, this is crazy. And he ended up in 1983. That's where he went back to. That was the time loop which was generated, that nodal point. And again, as like strings on an instrument, there's always a similar distance to the next nodal point. It's important to really stay rooted in our bodies, because there will also be very extreme news coming in. We are opening up to a whole new palette of manifestations. Oracle Girl was one of those who mentioned it, that we will see coming into visibility beings which we didn't even think they existed. So there's some influx from another dimension. It's well possible that something really with physical material came in yesterday and is now starting to get ready to really expose itself and come into the open. And again, I want to say, yes, this paradox was created by the dark forces. However, it was allowed by existence, and whatever is allowed, existence knows it can use this event in a certain way to, as a stepping stone, as a jumping board into a much higher dimension of realization and understanding. So it's always like in Aikido, you allow the enemy to make the first move and come into your field, and then you receive that and turn it around and take advantage of the situation. And that's what seems to now happen, what we are at that moment building into the next few months, as this is the solar maximum we are in. It's amazing. Again, the synchronicity there. Again, January 2024 is also when Pluto will go back for the second time into Aquarius, after just having been for 6 weeks between March 23rd and June the 11th. That was the window. And there's so many things synchronized. This is an extremely potent and multidimensional time, and you probably can feel it. So it's important to stay rooted in our bodies and embodying pure love. That's what it is. That's the basic recipe for bringing the new frequency in, grounding it. It's all about frequency in the end. That's the whole thing. And being centered in your Buddhic body. And now this brings me to Gene Key 4 to get deeper into this, because this is really, really central what's going on right now. So this is the I should start with, in the classic I Ching, hexagram 4 is youthful ignorance. It is exactly what that word says. It is like a small child who's trying out all the things, steps in all the different traps and makes the mistakes and goes through all experience firsthand. So this is a super important phase to go through, and the shadow of it is intolerance. And I highly recommend, as I show you this here, to listen to this 22-minute clip by Richard Rudd, where he goes really into the details of this gene key. Very informative, very powerful, very deep. You will be amazed. I actually will quote a few things out of this. So I will post a link in the description as always. So this week, and that is, as I say, 12th to the 17th of August, this is at its most intense. Yes, this energy is omnipresent, as all the 64 gene keys are, but when the sun is in, and as we got this hint from the crop circles just on the 10th of August, that the sun is what we should focus on. So that's what brought me also to the understanding how important this particular edge of the zodiac is from hexagram 7, where that rude and intense kind of force prayed itself into this dimension, kind of giving a picture, and then the solution coming as soon as we're in the new frequency of hexagram 4. Very, very powerful to see this connection. And yes, here we are again. So this week is a week to focus on understanding and forgiveness. Bring your full attention into the relational field and keep your hearts soft and open as much as you are able to. And this is really well, let me now paraphrase a few things which Richard Rudd says. So gene key 4 sits at the top of the pyramid here really is the receptor basically of the neocortex in the rational mind to infinity. It is that interface 47. Well, I'm saying it wrong here on this side. You see there's 3 channels here, and this one is the abstract understanding of reality, which interestingly has been turned on, this channel, as I will show you, as soon as Mercury crossed the 17th degree. Let me quickly go there. I have everything lined up here. Okay, that is yeah, that happened just shortly after. Again, it was a really an amazing sequence of events. So this energy is on for a full week, that hexagram 47. That is okay, 17 degrees Virgo, and the counterpart of this is 64, which is Mars. Where do I have it again? Here. Yeah, see, Mars 47 and Mercury 64. Actually, this chart is, yeah, a few minutes prior to that. Anyway, you get the picture. So hexagram 4, that is where the energy is focused right now, and the enlightened form, when we have gone through understanding of the polarities, we get to a place of forgiveness. And Rad says this is a collective mutation which is underway in that part of our brains collectively. And personal forgiveness is but a tiny echo of the full manifestation of that. It is the realization that nothing really is personal in this dimension we are in. That everything already is given, and we then try to figure it out. We try to put a name tag on it, make sense out of it, and that creates all that tension, which then we take on as our personal story. And anyway, there was a friend making a really beautiful comment today, and I thought that was totally matching. Do you know what my waking moment was? The moment she woke up, I suddenly understood that there is no blame. Then I began applying that understanding to all aspects of my life. Now I should say, this lady is in her last stage of life. She has terminal cancer. So she is in that phase of making peace with what is. That's basically another way of saying it. A waking moment, suddenly understanding that there is no one to blame. Then I began applying this understanding to all aspects of my life, my relationships and the world. Slowly these epiphanies brought me to the understanding today. I personally feel that if we are blaming anyone for our lot in life, we are not going the direction we say we want to go. Very, very meaningful for this particular transformation we are focused on, pushed with our nose on, right head on. So I mean, this whole, you see, we're coming out of the first 15 degrees of Leo, which were combustion, and then now we are in the release phase, and actually the black moon already is in the release phase since quite a bit. So there's all this shadows being burnt up, and they have to come to the surface, they have to come to the forefront. So that's why also we have such extreme events occurring, like the Hawaii fires. And yeah, I just want to very quickly touch into that, as this is a central theme right now. I mean, Hawaii is pretty much the crown jewel of the United States, I would say. And Maui in particular is probably the dream place many Americans have in their mind. So this is a big calamity, and it's terrible. It's an atrocity. It has been intentionally brought down. There are many signs. Well, I just read you this, which I found, which was posted. I just got out of a meeting where I was informed by someone in the mayor's office that was someone living there and being personally involved in the whole thing, naturally, about developments that are being kept from the public. I am not a conspiracy theorist and I don't want to make trouble, but there's what I've heard. Anyway, it goes on and on. I have it here. It's pretty disturbing that there were many things were going wrong, and one can think of intentional. Anyway, that is just one of the stories. The other one, which I found equally disturbing and terrible, was this one, which I came across today. And I said here in my intro, and we will go there right away, if this isn't striking anyone's conscience, what I will show you, piercing you like a thunderbolt, then I don't know what else might. And later on I came to the conclusion, I want to give you the whole story before we even go there. It appears we're at the point where absolutely everything is allowed. Yes, Pandora's box is really blown open on all 6 sides. In order to build the momentum, we're still going more to the extreme. We're building the momentum for when the pendulum begins to swing the other way. Thus, the crazier we go, the more extreme. We are generating the energy, the potential energy to then turn into kinetic energy, preparing the stage for the new world to rush in ever more furiously. So that's where we are. We have to allow that extreme to truly unfold itself. Now, here, this is what I really want to play you. It's just a few minutes.
Now, looking at the other end of life, let's look at this very concerning report from Australia.
Well, speaking of outrageous, a Senate hearing in Canberra today was told that 700 babies were born alive after failed abortions between 2010 and 2020. That's just in Victoria and Queensland. Those figures were taken from Queensland Health and from Victoria's Consultative Council on Obstetrics and Paediatric Mortality and Morbidity. And those figures, 700 babies born alive after surviving an abortion but then just left to die, should be a national scandal. At present, abortion providers aren't required to do anything to help a baby that survives an abortion. They're simply left there, and time of death is eventually recorded. Well, 3 politicians, Liberal Senators Alex Antic, Matt Canavan and United Australia Party Senator Ralph Babet, have brought a bill that would require abortion providers to treat a human being who survives an abortion like a human being and actually render assistance. This bill does not restrict a woman's right to an abortion. It doesn't criminalise a woman for having an abortion. It simply requires medical practitioners to render medical care to a human being who's born as a result of an abortion as if they were born any other way. Because I was looking at some of the submissions, and as you can imagine, lots of churches have made submissions in favour of this bill. Those opposed to the bill, pro-choice groups, their two main arguments seem to be, one, that this is a private matter. If a baby is born alive during an abortion, well, it's a private matter what happens to that baby between the mum and the abortion provider. And the other argument against the bill seems to be that, well, it's a burden to place this responsibility on abortion providers, that they would have to render life-saving care to a human being. This should be a huge...
Wow. You get it. So that's the level of intensity we are at right now. And now let's get into the astrology and give this see what this craziness, how this shows up in astrology, what are the supporting and enlightening inputs we are receiving right now. Let's put the light on that. Now, here we are. This is when the sun entered hexagram 4. I really like this 18th degree, particularly so as this is where you see also heliocentric. I have this chart here heliocentrically too. Venus had a conjunction with Hygeia heliocentrically. This is a very auspicious omen. Hygeia is about health, well-being and serendipity, and Venus naturally is just about finishing its cycle at this point. That was just 2 days prior to entering a new cycle, in the very final days of the evening star phase, and that final culmination. And as we speak, we are now in the new phase. Venus is born as a morning star. Yes, it's not yet visible, but it has crossed between Sun and Earth and will from now on be seen in the early morning sky, versus it was visible in the early evening sky. So this is a dramatic shift in the Venusian energy. This was at the very tail end of that collective phase, laying the foundations for something beautiful to coming to manifestation. So, and then having this exact conjunction geocentrically exactly at the rising degree, and then in the Sabian symbols, and for those of you who are new here, this is my beloved copy of that little book, the 360 symbols for the degrees of the zodiac, as received by Elsie Wheeler in 1925. Anyway, so the 18th degree of Aquarius is a man's secret motives are being publicly unmasked. This is beautiful on multiple levels. It says there's no secrecy anymore. Everything is openly displayed. Our personal truth is coming inside out, and so is all the bad intentions of all the dark players. Everything is brought to light. That's basically what this degree says. It is interesting that this is also the degree the Earth was in during that high point, and seemingly this is the kind of the astrological manifestation of that multi-year biorhythm Earth has. Sure, it's every 4 years, but it's marked particularly on the 12th of August as being a rhythm, a recurring rhythm. So hexagram 4, yes, let's go a little deeper into that. What does that mean? It is that area in the brain which is collectively mutating, and that is highlighted this week particularly. So as I say before, nothing is personal. That is the big realization here, that we are hybrids. We are not purely nature, and we are definitely not purely that other source which tries to control us. And that is really the big war between nature and artifice. You get it. And artifice is smart, intelligent, has all the abilities to get its tentacles, and it's like a virus. It infests us, humans, in that sense. Yes, we all kind of are. Once we mature through it, we will be enriched, because it's really, you make this energy, then you use it in a smart way, in an intelligent way. You're the master of it. It's not ruling over you. That's really where we have to get, and that is the integration, and that's where we're aiming for. So, and it is in this relaxation that you realize that nothing is personal. Forgiveness particularly is naturally starts on the personal level. You get to that point through loving yourself, that you're able to forgive yourself. And that is the moment, as Richard Roth says, and then we see how deeply we have trapped ourselves in our belief structures, in our resentments, and through our ambitions and broken dreams. The gift of understanding brings other self-responsibility. And now we realize that all our resentments, disappointments, hurts in our relationships ultimately stem from our own incomplete self-love. And once you are there, then it is natural to get into this collective space of forgiveness and realize that there's really nobody directly to blame. These are all just smoke screens for us to realize something way bigger. It is the extreme polarization. And well, one last link I want to show you before we go deeper into the astrology again. Which is this one here. Was a live conversation Jacqueline Hobbs, Oracle Girl, had with this couple, this beautiful young couple who has 3 kids, and the main topic was about how to keep kids in a safe space, give them the surroundings we really would like them to have in this crazy present time we are navigating through. Very beautiful people, great insights came along through here. And yes, in the last section of it, Jacqueline actually goes into that whole subject of forgiveness too, and brings her insights into it. It was perfectly matching. It happened just at the interview, at the cusp of those 2 hexagrams too, just as it's quite amazing how the cosmic timing works, how things appear, come to fullness when the time is perfect for them to come through. So anyway, this was the starting point. Now let's look at the next chart. So let's just once more, I want to bring this in once more. So here the sun enters hexagram 4, which at the same time means Earth is on the other end of the zodiac. You see, when the sun is in 4, 1852 to 2430, then Earth is in 49, which is revolution. So that's also, Richard Rudd says that nicely, it is, we are coming from intolerant reaction, that is the shadow of the condition we are dealing with in a way, and the path, the resolution is revolution in understanding. We have to really lift up to a whole new level of computing, of putting the information bits together, a whole new order, a revolution in understanding. First you have intolerant reaction. Yes, that is what most of the world still is in. Revolution in understanding brings rebirth through forgiveness. That's where we are going collectively. And only if we can forgive ourselves, we can return to love with, we can return love with non-love. That is another of the important statements Richard Rudd makes. Only when we can forgive ourselves, we can return love. Okay, that's upside down. Sorry about that. Okay, we can return non-love with love. If we receive non-love, we can give still love, because love is our nature at this point. There's nothing else, because you are seeing that this is just a polarity which plays, and the more you're taking out the charge of your judgment, the more you're deflating the illusion. And that's kind of where it then goes, and it has nothing to nest in anymore, to put its tentacles in, so it will disappear. And again, it's also the environment is no more friendly, you could say, for those lower frequency bands. So this is really where we are at. We are at that collective mutation point where we are seeing part of our brain go through a death, that part which needs and looks for answers and reasons. To live in an acausal world without blame or guilt. Things are just the way they are. Yes. You like coffee, your friend doesn't like coffee. It's just as simple as it is. It is different shades of reality, and overall it is all the colors which make the rainbow. But definitely we will be shifting that whole polarity scale into the positive. Right now it is extremely in the negative. That is there will still be polarity, there will still be days where you feel better than others. There's still a learning to go on, even in the new world, even more so as more doors open. But everything will be in a whole different climate. So let's go into astrology now. So this was at the foundation, and then an hour later, actually, Mercury enters hexagram 47. No, I'm now in the wrong place. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna give you really the full story. That is 7:22 p.m. on the 11th. And then on 8:02 p.m. Now this is the real deal. That is another amazing synchronicity here. Heliocentrically, Uranus completes 2/3 of the Taurus transit here at 20 degrees. Remember, in heliocentric astrology, planets always move forward, slowly pacing around the sun. So this is a big moment when energetically, in that background unmanifest level of frequencies where all the light codons bring in the information from the sun on a regular base, 8 minutes it takes for that to arrive here, the photons, the neutrons, the neutrinos, you name it, all these quantum particles carrying that information from the sun. The third quadrant, the third decant of Taurus has a Capricorn frequency. Yeah, common thing for those among you who are astrologers or know astrology a bit better. But this is very important. This is now the crystallization phase, which starts for the Taurian energy to become fully tangible, visible. Now this again has many levels of expression. It's from one side, it is from one angle, it will be all these technologies which have been worked on will now start really becoming available and take on form. All that source energy, free energy, and not, and all the applications will be part of it. Also, it is important to structure your personal self, get stronger roots into who you are. That's why, as I said, it's so important to have that real strong anchoring in our body to allow this crystallization to happen. Now you see Mercury right center here. It's amazing, and this degree jumped to my eye because this was the degree, will be the degree where Mercury will be turning direct again on September the 15th at 8:00, I guess 11 seconds of arc. And I actually have this chart here for you. Yes, that's what it is. That is when Mercury entered that loop, entered that degree here, 8:00:11. So Mercury from here on, from August 4, still moves direct into the 23rd, then starting to move backwards as seen from Earth, and again starting off direct into a new round. As I say, on the 15th of September, this will be at 8:00:11. So this is a supercharged degree. It's kind of foreseeing the future. That's what I get the feeling for. And I already have done a little bit of homework here, and it's amazing. This moment when a planet enters its retro loop, so far what I've seen has predictive potential. It shows where we are going, and I mean this chart is kind of the proof of that. That was on August 4, and then you see where we are when 21:20 here in midheaven when Uranus crosses that 20-degree mark heliocentrically, and then yeah, we get that 21. Here it is again. Okay, that was then on the 12th of August when planet Earth heliocentrically was in an exact square aspect to Uranus. So within hours we have these two different Uranian nodal points, you could say, and both times it is the 22nd, 22nd degree of Gemini and Sagittarius, and yes, with Mercury up high here in house 9. Now this chart is basically the valid into, I guess, March 2024. That's how long heliocentric Uranus is in this segment. Actually, it's longer than that, but in the dwad of Capricorn for sure till March 2024, and then still in the decant, which is the last 10 degrees, till 2025, end of 2025, I guess, when Uranus will enter Gemini. So this is an important start here, this chart shows. Yes, with this, starting with this Mercury loop here, touching back onto this descendant once more. Here you see the geocentric chart of that moment when and the moon here, 29th degree of Gemini conjunct Betelgeuse, whom we mentioned before, who is a potent candidate for a supernova, very close in cosmic terms. Who knows, there might be something there in these coming few years, kind of a culmination point marking. That's what I'm expecting it to be, kind of coming in a synchronicity with that mutational upgrades, that breakthrough into a greater consciousness, into a higher expression of physical manifestation as our heart begins to open more consistently. Understanding is coming to light. It's the activation of the Buddhic body, which then begins to dominate our inner consciousness. That is really the direction we're going through. This is again Richard Roth, I'm here kind of quoting. So these are extremely potent times we are in. If we are able to just relax in the middle of it and see it is all exactly meant to unfold the way it does. Yes, there is great personal freedom in it. That's the paradox, and it can't be solved. Paradoxes can't be solved. It's something to contemplate, to live with, to accept. And this is really, once we can understand, well, again, understand is the wrong word, once we can tolerate the paradox, then everything changes. That's maybe a way to put it. So let's go through the charts here, because I have quite a few and I want to quickly get through it. I won't stay too long. I just show you again the intensity of each of these charts. When something happens with the sun at one of the 4 angles. This is always amplifying that moment. So again, we could have looked at this chart already, what is that now, 9 days ago, and said, yes, this is an incredibly intense phase in terms of understanding, in terms of expanding our minds. And it is in hexagram 40, as I pointed out, deliverance, liberation. It is a liberation of a lower aspect of mind, vaporization, letting go of it. In a thunderclap it will be illuminated and changing its face, literally. So then let's get back here now to this chart. So we have this one here, August 11, 8:02 p.m. and then that is a bit more than a day after. Yes, Earth is in exact square with Uranus, again close to the same degrees, 16th, 17th degree. Mercury again angular. Yes, it's all about Mercury, and I wouldn't be surprised if we would see some major solar flares in that window. Now Mercury will be getting into crossing between Earth and the Sun, which that window of retrogression, which, as I said, starts the 23rd of August. Again, the 23rd. So many times this year already we had important celestial events on the 23rd. Just recently, on the 23rd of July, Venus went retrograde. Pluto had entered Aquarius the first time on March 23, and this is just a couple examples. There's many more. Pretty much every month on the 23rd you can expect some major upgrade, some major shift. So yes, let's just zoom on, and you can always stop and take screenshots if you like to look closer at these charts. And this is then, you see, 12th of August, 11:49 p.m. And already a bit earlier than that, actually, Mercury then, as I said, activated hexagram 47, which allows for that. No, that's not the one. This is the one. Yes, that channel here. By the way, this channel here is active for months on end. That's the channel of Mutation, interestingly enough, of fast changes of source energy, and hexagram 3, where the lunar north node is in, still into the 26th of August, another date to keep in mind. This is difficulty at the beginning. That is what we are experiencing right now. It is really that pushing through concrete, through asphalt of that small grass blade, which I mentioned last time, which is the picture of that hexagram 3. This is the power of nature to break through the artificial and through the unnatural, to have that enormous power to break through. And this is now complemented for 1 week between roughly the 12th and the 17th, yes, when that channel is active, highlighting the channel 4. Yes, 4 is the one which is that rational and understanding, which we have to literally dissolve, to come to terms with that. It doesn't matter who was right, why things are in a certain way. Just accept their suchness, like a little child. Go to that acausal point of view, which takes out really all the charge. That is where we are working on, and this is helping to get out of that rut, because 4764 is the abstract mind, the one which is irrational, you could say, which jumps to conclusions, which is able to follow the heart literally, to jump into something and then from inside out experiencing, oh okay, that's how it feels. That's why this is such an important week we're in. And that was the beginning. And again, you see, I mean, you can't make these things up. Mercury here, front and center at the 7th house this time. And Mercury in a multi-week conjunction with Pallas and Mars. Those two are tremendously helping, assisting this Mercury to get its job done. Mars is the activator, kind of puts wood into the fire. Pallas is the one which brings that thirst to understand patterns and to see the deeper connotations of a subject, to be able to describe it in a few brush strokes even. It is that ability to see the skeleton of something. I guess that's all about that cerebral power Pallas brings in, which is linking us into the pure mind, into the mind of, when I would say, when the whole grid lights up, when you can see the connections, when all the different neurons start interconnecting and firing, when that web is created. So we have here the 16th degree of mutual, Pisces and Virgo. This is the same moment heliocentrically. It's just uncanny. I mean, it's quite amazing. And then, well, this is the next chapter, and I won't go there right now. Bring this to an end so it doesn't get way too long. It's already too long. Anyway, thank you for joining and listening. I will get deeper into this new cycle, which just started with today's exact conjunction of Venus with planet Earth as seen from the Sun, or in other words, of as seen from Earth, Venus exactly between Earth and the Sun. Anyway, thanks again for joining, listening, and have a good day.